Hey, this is Hire, and in this video, we are going to be talking about how to add patrolling enemies. So those are enemies that simply walk back and forth and hurt you by colliding with you. So I did go through and expand my layout a little bit. I'm holding Shift and scrolling to be able to scroll back and forth. I can hold Control to scroll in and out. Just a nice little construct tip. You can actually use it on any website. It's especially helpful here. So I have 3 coins to collect and a key so far. But nothing to make it difficult for me. So let's start by adding one enemy. So we are going to add a sprite, just like we've added for all the other things in our game. And I'm going to choose an enemy sprite. In this case, the one I want is from files, not from a strip. So I'm going to import from files. And I will go to my file and get the characters I want. I would like to use for my first enemy, I'm going to use this guy here. So I only want the one with the eye, so I'm going to shift click for those two. I'm going to loop it, hit play, make sure it looks the way I want. He goes up and down, delete the unfilled one, call this walk, and we are ready to go. We have a little enemy. So there's a lot of ways you can do this. This is my favorite way. It's the one that I have found to be the absolute best. So I'm going to put him down so it looks like he's touching the ground. I want to make sure he's not on the HUD layer, set him to layer 0, and I want to give him an instance variable of lives. So this means I can copy this little enemy the same way I copied the coins, and every single one of these enemies is going to have 2 lives on it. Now, to get him walking back and forth, we are going to add a new behavior, and we are adding one called the sign behavior. It's all the way at the bottom. The sign just makes it kind of move back and forth, and you can do this for lots of things. Under our properties bar over here, you can see we can have it move side to side, that's horizontal, or we could have it go up and down. So if we want like a bat that flies up and down to cover an area, you can change this to vertical. You can also have something shrink and grow by changing size. You can have it spin back and forth, whatever you want. There's lots of options here for sign, but I'm going to stick with horizontal. So the period is how long it takes to go back and forth, and the magnitude is how many pixels it goes forward and then backwards. So right now it's going to take 4 seconds to go forward 50 and then backwards 50 from this center point. I have the paid version, so I can actually preview the behavior. If you have the free version, you can't preview. You just have to hit play and look like normal. I'm going to save my game. So I want this little guy to be guarding my... I'm going to make this guy guard the coin, or guard the key. So I'm going to put it directly over the key, and then I want to set it up so that it goes pretty fast. I'm going to do 2 here, and I think 50 magnitude is still going to be good. Let's try 1 here. Just see how that is. So he's moving really pretty fast, trying to keep that key safe. You're not getting into that key unless you destroy the little guy. So I'm going to set it back to 2, just because I like the visuals of 2 better. Oh, and I got to unpreview it. I do want this to be lower. You know what? We're going to make this more fun. We're going to make it so that the key doesn't show up until you have destroyed this little sprite. It's like you destroy it and it drops the key for you to pick up. So we have it going back and forth, a pretty decent little pace. But it kind of looks like it's walking forwards and then backwards. I want it to mirror the same way my player character mirrors, and I can do that with code. So I am going to add a new group, and I'm going to call this enemy code, just to help me organize everything. And under enemy code, we're going to start by setting up, well, let's call this blue. We'll call it enemy blue, just so we can keep track easily. We are going to set up to get enemy blue facing back and forth. This one's weird, so stick with me. Under system, we want to compare 2 values. When we have this enemy blue playing, I'm going to show you, this is a cool mode. It's called debug layout. And it actually shows you all of the like behind the scenes numbers that you can't see while you're playing. This is a great way to figure out if things are working. You can see if variables are changing like you expect them to. You can see your performance rates. You can see all sorts of crazy stuff. So I'm going to come to enemy blue. And as enemy blue is walking, sorry, I'm going to go over to him so we can see him. As enemy blue is walking back and forth, when you scroll down here, you can see under sign, it goes up to positive 50 and down to negative 50, positive 50, negative 50, positive 50, negative 50, positive 50, negative 50. So this is the value. The value is changing. The magnitude stays the same. It's always 50. The value is what is changing as he's moving around. We can use that to our advantage. So we are going to take our enemy blue, sign, we're going to take its current value. So whatever it's at, that positive 50, negative 50, or somewhere in between, we're going to divide that by our enemy dot sign dot magnitude. And the reason for this is, let's say this guy is at positive 50 and the magnitude is positive 50 always. That means when it's all the way to the right side of its movement, it's going to be equal to 1. So we're going to say greater than or equal to, and we're actually going to go 0.99 just to give us a little wiggle room. So we're saying as soon as you get to the farthest positive point that you go, this value, when you get to that farthest positive point to the right, we're going to set you to 0.99. We want you to mirror yourself. I always forget, this one kind of depends on which way they're facing. So we're going to set one to mirrored and one to not mirrored, and we'll see if it's right. We're going to duplicate this. And this time when it gets all the way to the other side, so positive 50 is over here, negative 50 is over here. So negative 50 divided by 50 is negative 1. So anytime our magnitude is less than or equal to negative 0.099, we want it to flip the way it's facing. Again, I'm not sure if I chose right. We're going to hit play and see. If I didn't choose right, it means we just have to flip-flop which one is which. So see, it looks like he's walking backwards now, so we'll flip it. And actually, honestly, we know that the enemy is always going to go to the right first, so it's probably better for us to just flip the whole thing. So that way it's always facing the correct direction at that first bit of movement. And now it should work beautifully. Our character can go back and forth and flip its the way it's facing. Oops, that was my bad. So our little enemy is going back and forth and flipping the way it's facing every time it gets to the furthest point of its sign. What's really cool about this, so remember how I said we can use control to make copies? So I'm going to click on him, hold control, and make a copy to put over here. And let's say I want this one to, it's kind of near the middle. Maybe I want it to go 100, a magnitude of 100 instead. Well, because it's based on math and not me setting like specific values, I can change that magnitude all I want, and it's going to do positive 100 divided by 100 and negative 100 divided by 100. It's going to give us the same results. So it will constantly flip back and forth. So you get a really good look. Because they're going the same speed, you can change period and magnitude for each individual one. You just click on the individual and change it to whatever you want. So maybe I want one slower, one faster. Maybe I want one to go up and down for some reason. Maybe I want this one to go vertically while I want the other one to go horizontally. You get all of the power here to do what you want. What you will notice when you click on enemy blue under the project bar is that, see, one is going up and down, and it flips back and forth too. But let's set them back to horizontal. What you will notice is if you click on enemy blue here, it's going to tell you that you have multiple periods and multiple magnitudes. That means it's different on everybody. We can hit preview and see what it looks like. It doesn't do the flipping though. Okay, we have our enemy looking good, but it doesn't cause any harm to us. So let's have our player get damaged by the enemy. So we're going to say when our player collides with enemy blue, we want stuff to happen. There's two possible outcomes. In my game, I want, if I collide with enemy blue and it just has run into me, I lose a life. If I jump on enemy blue's head, I want enemy blue to lose a life. So this is where we're going to use what are called sub-events. Adding sub-events lets us create a little bit more nuance in our code. So we're going to say when we collide with the blue enemy, if we are falling onto the enemy. So if we're falling, and we're going to add a second line. Oh, we haven't done this either. We're going to say if we're falling and we're above enemy blue. So we're going to say if the platform is falling and we're going to compare the y. If our y is less than, remember, above is less. It's really weird. Above the enemy blue y. Then we cause damage to enemy blue. So we're going to come into enemy blue and go to variables and subtract 1 from our variable lives for the enemy blue. We do now want to add an else. So this means any other time we collide. So if we do not meet these two conditions and we run into the enemy blue, we are going to lose a life. And remember, that's under systems, not player. Subtract from lives by 1. I do like to have them kind of flash to make it obvious who's losing the life. So that's under behaviors. We're going to go to player, add a new behavior of flashing. And we are going to do the exact same thing with enemy blue, add a new behavior of flashing. So here, when we damage the enemy, we'll have the enemy flash. You can mess with the timing if you want. I really like the default timing, so I'm not going to. And we'll have the player flash when we get damaged. So let's check it out. Okay, let's get hurt. See, we flashed, we lost a life. Now we got to try to jump on it. This can be the hardest part, is actually landing on it. Ooh, it flashed, but we just kind of fall right through it. And then it can sometimes hurt us. So I also want to make us like bounce off its head. So we're going to go under player. We are going to set the y vector to a negative number. I like negative 550. It makes it bounce up real nice. And the other thing is I bounced on it 3 times, but that little sucker didn't die. And it's because I haven't told it what to do when enemy lives equals 0. So I'm going to come under my enemy, compare the instance variable, and we're going to say if lives are equal to 0, let's destroy the enemy. All right, let's see if I can do it. I hopped and I destroyed the enemy without dying myself. Oops. And there we go. No more enemies. Now, I did say I wanted my key to show up when I destroyed one of my enemies. So in this case, maybe I want, what do we want to have as our enemies killed? What would be a good number to have? Let's say after I kill the first enemy. So we'll say if lives equals 0, we'll destroy it, and we're going to add a sub-event that says if the HUD key is not visible, which means we have not picked it up yet. We got to find visible. So if it is visible, but we're going to invert that to say if it is not visible, then we want to create the key. So let's just say it's always going to go here, no matter which character I kill first. So that's my position. Under the event sheet, we're going to say if the HUD key is not visible, we are going to set the key. We're going to have the game actually create the key because we don't want it to be there. No, we'll just go set position. That would be totally fine. You can also have the game create the key. Doesn't matter either way. We're going to set the position to 1156314. I got that from looking at the position of the key. And then I'm going to drag the key back up so it's not on the game. And now after I kill my first enemy, my key should appear. It's always a little hard to get them killed. I'm not always the best at it. Okay, I'm gonna try this guy. Oh no, I'm gonna die before I get there. Oh, and there's my key. And now when I kill this little monster, no key shows up because the hide key is already visible, so it's not gonna put the key there. And voila, that is how you can create enemies that go ahead and patrol an area to destroy you. You know what? We have a little bit of time still. I think I'm going to tell you how to create an enemy that can shoot a projectile at you. So let's do it with a new type of enemy. So I'm going to delete my second enemy here. I only want one of these. We are going to create 2 new sprites. The first sprite is going to be for the enemy. Hey, at this point, if you don't want to have a projectile shooting enemy, we are done with this tutorial. The next tutorial, we're going to talk about going to a second level, setting up second levels, and then after that, we'll talk about shops. So thanks for watching. If you're sticking around to see how we're making a projectile shooting one, that's awesome. If not, we'll see you in the next video. Okay, so if you want an enemy that shoots a projectile, I'm going to choose this little enemy here, this little red guy. We are going to, I want to double him in size because I do remember this guy be really tiny. We are going to set this up almost exactly the same as we set up this little blue enemy. But we want to make sure he's on layer 0. We're going to give him the sign behavior. Gotta find the sign. We'll do all of the same code as what we had on our first enemy. So you would just copy and paste this. I'm not going to take the time to copy and paste it now because that's not what is important. What is important is getting this little enemy to shoot a projectile at you. So I am going to add a spike projectile as a sprite. I already have a nice spike animation that I really like, or spike sprite that I like from the Kenny kit as well. So I'll grab that spike and get it all set up to do what I want it to do. Spikes, spikes. I'm going to turn it sideways so that way it shoots. I do not want it to be down here. I like the size of the spikes. Yeah, I don't want it to be down here. I want to put it up, and I want to make sure it's on layer 0. I am going to rename these guys enemy spike. I'm going to call him enemy red, and we're going to call these enemy spikes. So enemy red is going to shoot spikes. Currently, enemy red patrols back and forth just the same way the other one does. You will have duplicated this code here for enemy red, and now you're ready to make it shoot. So on the spikes, we are going to give them a behavior called bullet behavior, which makes them move around the screen. What we want to do, let's say this guy I want every 5 seconds. I'm going to do every 3 seconds. I want the enemy to shoot a spike at you. So I'm going to go into system and I'm going to say every X seconds. And I'm going to say every 3 seconds, I want to create a spike. But I think it matters. I want it to matter which way my character is facing. So that way, if it's facing to the left, it shoots a spike to the left. If it's facing the right, it shoots a spike to the right. So we are going to use a sub event here. So we're going to add a sub event. We're going to say if enemy red is mirrored, we want something to happen. So I guess I do have to really quickly duplicate this code for enemy red. Sorry guys, I was trying to avoid it. So we're just going to change everything to red instead of blue. I should have fixed my spelling. The reason we're doing this is because we're going to use which way it's facing as a way to help us set up which way it's going to shoot. And then I also want to come in here and flip this guy like I did the other one. Okay, So now when it's mirrored, that means it's facing to the left. So we want the spikes to go to the left. The spikes automatically go to the right. So we're going to go to system and we're going to have it create an object. We're going to have it create the spikes on the enemy. So we want to set the x of the spikes to enemy red dot x. We want to set the y to enemy red dot y. That means it's going to create the spikes on the player. And then we want to set the bullet behavior on this. We want to set the angle of motion to be 180. This is going to make it go to the left instead of the right. 0 is to the right, 180 is to the left. We will duplicate this code. We're going to invert this to make it, if it's not mirrored, then we want it to shoot to the right. So we deleted changing the angle of motion. So let's go look at these shooting enemies. This is always kind of a fun way to do it. I like to make it so that the shooting enemies are not destroyable. So you see, he's shooting his spikes. Oh, he is not mirroring though. Did I not change everything that I needed to? I did not. I forgot to change this from enemy blue to enemy red. You see, even when I'm making code a lot of the time, guys, I make mistakes. So I'm going to copy that, put that in here, delete this guy, and make this not mirrored. Let's see if that works a little better. As soon as this loads, we'll be able to see if our enemy is shooting spikes the way it's supposed to. So there, the spikes went one way, and they went the other way. So you can see it shoots spikes. We will create collisions like we did. So on collision with blue enemy. So honestly, for the spike enemy, I like to make it so that when I collide with the spike enemy, no matter what I'm getting hurt. So when my player collides with the red enemy, I get hurt. Sorry, system, subtract from lives by 1. And when the, I should have done player, when the player collides with the spikes, I lose a life and flash. That's just my preference. You can really set this up however you want. You could set it up exactly the same as the last one. In my shop tutorial, I'm going to teach you a way to buy spikes that you can shoot and then set it up so that that's what kills the spike enemy. There you go. So let's see, we should get hurt now. If we run into the enemy, we get hurt. And if we run into the spikes, we get hurt. Oh, which way are you going to shoot next? There we go. And that is how to make enemies. In the next video, like I said earlier, we are going to go over adding next levels and probably starting some shop stuff. So I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to save your progress.